Hello, everybody, and welcome to another of our Success Leaves Clues interviews, where we talk to the good and the great around the industry. And I am delighted to have today Karl Knipe from King's Group. How are you, Karl?
I'm very good, Simon. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's absolutely fine. And if you don't at some stage during this turn around and jump into a song on that piano, I'm going to be very disappointed there. So that's it. If I ask you what your special skills are when you go all like that on me, Karl, let's give us a bit of an overview where King's Group are at the moment. All right, saying you've got about 14 offices. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we got offices from East London, which is Hackney, Bethnal Green, all the way out to through Walthamstow, North London, Essex, and Herts. So it's a fair coverage. Yeah. We've sort of mushroom built them. That's sort of worked for us. We haven't gone out and acquired other companies, although we have tried on numerous occasions. But funny enough, when we've been dealing with people, their spit in their hand mustn't be their spit, because they have changed path and sold to other people and things like that over a period of time. So it's amazing, really, when you think you're dealing with professional people and they're honourable and they turn out not to be. But hey ho, that's life, that's business. We're all big people. So yeah, we built it up. The business has really been built by the quality of the people within it. We've not expanded offices or gone on an ego trip for King's Group. It's been that purely and simply we've had good people. And if you've got somebody who's a great senior negotiator who earns you, say, 50 grand a year profit, and they can be a manager who can earn you 100 grand a year profit, why would you not open an office for them?
So a very strong ethos to develop from within.
I think that's the best thing about a estate agent. Certainly for me, best thing about estate agency, don't get me wrong, estate agency's been great for me financially. It's given me lots of opportunities in lots of other areas. We've got other businesses that have mushroomed off it also. But the best thing is, without a doubt, is seeing a little wet behind the ear trainee sit there, come for their interview, and then 5 years later, they're managing one of your offices, and they're successful in their own right.
And they know the culture back to front, don't they?
Yeah, they do. We have got a very strong culture. It is a very team. We all for one for all. Everyone goes the extra mile culture. And to be honest, every successful, not just estate agency, but I think every successful business, I know other successful people in business, all sorts of things, from it, builders, bricklayers, electricians, they all give 110%. There's no shortcuts in business, Simon.
No, I get that. And well, we're going to come back to this I'm interested in the culture piece, but I want to come back to that as well. So just recapping then, in terms of how many people within the business, roughly?
Within King's Group, or within all of? Yeah, within King's Group, King's Lettings, we're probably looking at about 110 people now. Okay, so that's shrunk down from about 135 pre-pandemic.
Yeah,
without stretching off, the good thing about the pandemic is it has shown us ways and opportunities where we can work slightly differently. And I also think in this property market as well, from a sales perspective, we just don't need quite as many people, because the market, everything that comes, we sell.
Yeah.
So we don't need the volume of negotiators. We don't need quite so many things as we did, because we're not taking on volume where we take on 30 properties and sell 15, say, for argument's sake. We're now taking on 15 and selling 15.
Yeah, I get it. I understand that entirely.
A lot less waste time.
So, Karl, give us an idea of where it all started for you as an individual then. What's the background of you getting into the business?
Well, I come from Sheffield in Yorkshire, and that's where I sort of went to school, started out. When I was 19, my godfather, who lived in Cheshunt, died, unfortunately, while he was away on holiday in Tunisia. They flew his body back. And my godfather went down to his wake or funeral, and at the wake, my godfather's brother's son, who'd got 3 estate agents, was just in the process of buying a couple more, had a few drinks too many, a couple of little tiddly wines, and said to me, got chatting to me and said, "You'd make a brilliant estate agent. Why don't you come down to me? I'll put you up in a flat and give you a car." Well, what he meant was he'd put me in a room with no heating, where even the rats went around on stilts. And his idea of a car was the boss. So, but no, bless him, he gave me a great opportunity. John Ripley, he was a fantastic guy, best estate agent I've ever seen to this day. Okay. I could tell you so many great stories about the guy as an estate agent, and he gave me my first opportunity, and that was many years ago.
And what did you think? Did he ever actually tell you what the talents and things that he spotted in you that he said would make a great estate agent?
He didn't as much as, but I mean, he indicated that, you know, I had a big mouth. I'd get stuck in. I had a northern work ethic, as he said. He said he actually tried to recruit from the north and bring more people down, but he did 4 or 5 more, but not one of them made it. I tried to tell him that the north doesn't have any better work ethic than people in the south. It's the person that counts.
Yeah.
Which he wasn't having. So that's what he sort of tried. But yeah, no, I think it was just, it's got to be, it's what it is for everybody. It's FDD, focus, drive, determination.
Yes. Okay, cool. And how would you say that? So obviously, so you started down there, and how did that develop then over the years? How did you move from there? Was it a straight line then into Kings? Did those grow into Kings? What was the storyline there?
No, well, the funny thing is, the business he was buying was a business called Kings, and he had his businesses, John Ripley and Co, and he bought Kings, and he made a couple of them into Ripley offices where he didn't have one, and the others mimicked it. So in Enfield Town, we had a Kings and a Ripley office. Edmonton, we had a Kings and a Ripley office. And when I'd been doing the job 3 months, he said to me, I want you to go. I was 19. I'd come down from Sheffield. I couldn't even speak the lingo. I couldn't understand what people were saying, because where I came from, Cocker, it weren't really like that down here, Cocker. So he said, I'm going to make you a manager. I said, what? I said, I don't even know what I'm doing. He said, yeah, but you'll be better than the bloke who I've got, because he definitely don't know what he's doing and he don't care. At least you'll care. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a manager. Whoa, yeah. So he put me in this office, and before I went, I said to him, well, how many properties has it got for sale? And he said, oh, it's got 12 properties for sale. I thought, well, that's not a lot. How many applicants? Oh, it's got about 38, 40 applicants. Okay. And it was in Enfield Town. It was about 250 yards from the office I was working in. And he said to me, well, it's okay, because you can share my properties. And if you sell any of them, you can put your boards up back to back.
Right.
And this, that, and the other. So I thought, well, okay, I'll give it a go. Anyway, I got down there, and after the first week, I had 3 properties on the market when I checked them all out, and I had 8 applicants. And I thought, I can't do this.
No.
I can't do it. I don't know anything. I'm 19. I don't know what damp surveys. I don't know anything. I don't know how to manage. I can't manage myself. What 19-year-old kid can? Yeah. And I dialed his number, and he answered the phone, and I put the phone down. I thought, nah, that ain't happening. I ain't chucking it in. And then I remembered I'd kept his keys for his office.
Yeah.
So I used to go in every night and photocopy his applicants that he'd taken that day and look through his diary the next day. Because he'd said I could sell his properties. Yeah. So I knew he would
had a carte blanche to do it.
yeah. Taking properties on. And so I'd photocopy the telephone numbers and everything. And I used to go back to the office and ring people up that night and say, we're taking potentially a 3-bed semi on for 46,000 tomorrow in Ladysmith Road. I've got you in for it. You need to get in quickly, because I've got another 20 people who want to see it. And it was quite a busy time, very similar to now. Yeah. So I used to rack up that evening 6 viewings if he was going at 4 from 6 o'clock onwards. And I used to say to him, have you got any valuations? And bless him, and he was right. He used to say, I don't do valuations. I only do instructions. So I knew it was coming on the market. So that's basically what happened. And so I was selling everything. And I remember him saying to his couple of negotiators in his office, I don't get it. How is Karl selling everything quicker than you? And this went on for about a month. And then I went in his office one day and he twigged it. And I can remember him sitting there with this big, red, ruddy face. And I went in and I said, hello, John, how are you? And he went, you're stealing off me, stealing. Give me those keys. But it was done by then. I'd sold 15, 25, probably about 25, 30 properties with boards up.
Yeah.
And we were getting natural calls and instructions. So I'd done the job and established the office, which is what he paid me to do, technically. And he wasn't paying me any different than he was paying his negotiators, technically. He's probably paying me less commission because I was on the biggest basic salary.
What a sliding doors moment there with you on the phone, and you could have continued that phone call through to him, couldn't you? And of course we were speaking off camera about that work ethic and just the determination to actually finish the job, and that's what pushed you on to do that, wasn't it? When you
you just in sales, you just can't ever give up. You hear that all the time. You never fail. You're just closer to your learning curve. That's all. Every day's a learn. a school day, so to speak. You learn something every day, and you've got to learn to take everything positive and take out of it, you know, from making mistakes and things, which you do a lot more when you're younger. As you get older, you tend to make less mistakes, but they tend to be more costly ones, I think. I think we all know that, because you're dealing with larger amounts of money and you've got more responsibility. But, you know, if you can't take the responsibility, then get out of the chair.
Yeah. And how did you see that? How did the group grow over the years from that point on then?
John sold out to Northern Rock Property Services, left me working with them. I basically got together with Tom Payne and decided to open up an estate agents in Enfield next door to them. In fact, their office shut down within 6 months and they were closed and gone. Really, because they weren't estate agents. They weren't running it correctly. I tried to tell them, but they didn't want to know. They didn't want some 23-year-old trying to tell some 55-year-old that who was actually an ex-surveyor, the guy who was the chairman, the boss. I went up to see him in Newcastle. Well, he called me up. I thought he was going to sack me. I did say on the phone before I went up there, if you're going to sack me, don't call me all the way to Newcastle. Just get it over and done with. But he said no. Called me up there, tore me a strip off, and told me I didn't know what I was doing. Anyway, 18 months later, that business had gone, and 30 years later, we're here.
It's a real just looking at it as a comment on life, isn't it? More experienced people don't take advice very well, do they, from younger people, even if that advice is right. It's quite an issue a lot of the time, isn't it? You see out there just because people are to it.
I think that's a two-sided coin, Si, because I get quite a lot of people who try and give me these great ideas, and I've tried it 15 times before, so I know it don't work. So there's that side of it, and most of the ideas have been thought of already. I mean, you know, when you're in a estate agency, you don't really need to, you know, we get quite a lot of tech ideas. You yourself, I mean, you're the man who's got dealing with it all the time. But the estate agency is very simple. These people want to sell and these people want to buy. You just got to put them together. That's it. That is it in a nutshell. Everybody else complicates it. So when people start saying, oh, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do the other, my first question is why? What's the benefit out of it? Is there a financial benefit? I mean, vendors want three things. They want the best price, speed of transaction 9 times out of 10, minimum amount of hassle. They're the three main things they want. So unless someone comes up with an idea that's going to minimize that for vendors, and don't get me wrong, some of the tech ideas we've got have come along over that they have done that. But a lot of that really, the most important, in my opinion, the most important person in that transaction is the estate agent, because without that agent being a little Jack Russell chasing everybody in that chain and in that transaction through, nobody ever does it. Everyone does everything at their pace, not the pace of the client. I find it amazing that everybody in transactions work for themselves indirectly, and they convince themselves they're working for the client, and they don't. The client wants those three things. So why are we saying we'll do that tomorrow? Do it now. Get it done today. Tomorrow's another curveball that will give us space and time to deal with.
Perfect. And so how do you think you've changed over the years then? I mean, you talked there about the consistency and quite rightly not overcomplicating things, but have you found yourself changing very much as a kind of as a manager, as a leader of people?
Don't think the basics have changed. I think obviously, like anything, you know, the only good thing about aging is you get experience. The question is whether you use it or not. So a lot of people with a lot of experience, they don't seem to use it. I think the other thing is as well, for most people, when they get in their 50s, they do get quite cynical, and they do start to, I don't know, go into their shell a little bit. I think.
Why do you think that is, Karl? That's a really interesting. I mean, I don't disagree seeing some of the people, but what's the dynamic for that cynicism?
I think it's a bit. You know, I said to you, your set looks a bit like Captain Kirk when you sat in the chair there, the Enterprise, the bridge. And I think it's a little bit like that, because I think it's a case of, if you remember the old Star Trek, it sits there and Captain Kirk says, you know, Scotty comes on the thing and he says to him, Captain, the shields can't take much more. And I think that's what it is when you get in your 50s, your shields have taken so much shit, excuse my French, but they've taken so much of it that you don't quite have the ability to keep taking that level anymore. And I think your patience wears a little bit thinner with people. And I think maybe people don't quite have the same and I'm not talking about myself, I'm just talking about in general viewing, they don't maybe have quite the same oomph or desire or focus. And I think also you just get, you can get bogged down with things as well. Particularly when you're leading a business for 30 years.
Yeah.
A lot of business, it's like a football team, isn't it? A lot of football teams, they change the manager and they go on a run. You look at Chelsea, they get rid of Lampard, and then the next thing they've won the Champions League 6 months later. Is he a great manager? I don't know. He's struggling a little bit in the last few games again. So it does come down to players, but sometimes just new ideas refresh things. So that's difficult when you're heading up a business with Tom for 30 years. To do that, but I think you have to be a bit like Sir Alex Ferguson and bring in new coaches every couple of years.
I was going to say that's the antidote. Then is it to change it all up, keep it mixed up?
I don't know. I just think you just have to bring in certain ideas. You have to invent things. I mean, what I noticed when we went back, if we go back to the financial crash of 2008, 2009, I coined a phrase: a bad plan's better than no plan. Mm. And what I've learned over the years is if you've got a plan and you can sell that plan to your staff, they'll follow you along that plan. It might not be a great plan, but having no plan at all, people are going to go off and do their own thing. So you've got to make sure that you pull everyone together. There's a focus there, what you're trying to achieve and how you're going about it. And then another thing is if you go back to COVID or March 2020, the one thing that quickly became, I'm a person, I like to stay ahead of the game. I like to be, ahead of everything, see things as they come along, and make decisions before they need to be made. And one thing that came out of COVID was you couldn't do that. You couldn't. You had to be reactionary rather than proactive. Yeah. Because if you're proactive, you were making decisions on things you didn't know the answers to.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you'd been around for Spanish flu, there was no template to work with. This was
well, I might be old, but I'm not quite that old, sorry.
So give us an idea, obviously you've had some fantastic, years, obviously just given the time you've been in the business and everything else, and you've got this great group of offices, and I know a lot of your people, obviously very strong people, but can you say what your proudest achievement is to date? What would you were to sit here and summarize what you feel you've done really well over the years?
I think just it's always a difficult one to ask that. I don't know if I'm really proud of anything other than the fact that I'm proud of all the people I've worked with, and I've worked with some great people. And I'd like to think that, I've influenced them in who they are, not necessarily what they've achieved, but in who they've become as individuals. I think, I've maybe, what should we say, found diamonds in the rough and polished them up. And that's a lovely thing. It's a bit like children having kids. You see your kids grow up and then they leave the nest and they get married and they have successful relationships. They enjoy their life. Yeah. They have a great career, depending on what it can be, all those things or any of those things. But being successful in life is not earning 100 grand a year and driving a Porsche. It can be being happy. It can be being fulfilled. It might be anything. There's lots of things. I think a lot of people are very quick to try and judge people by their own wants, desires, and standards. Absolutely. And I think that you mustn't do that. And that's part of what I've tried to always bring to everybody who's worked with me at King's, is to think a little bit outside the box and work at your relationships. And when you're working at King's, you're in a relationship with the business, with the people you work with me. And any relationship is only as good as the interaction and the effort you put into it. And what I always say is, if you leave King's, go elsewhere, carry that same ethos off, and use it in your personal relationships as well. When me and my wife first got together, we always used to go out every Saturday and every Wednesday night, whatever, when we had kids and everything, and we had kids pretty early as well.
Date nights, the hipsters call it these days, don't they? It's all date night.
Yeah, well, ours was survival of your marriage night. That's what that was. So, it's just important that you spend a bit of time. I mean, I was building a business, so we used to work when we set up. We worked 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, literally till 8 o'clock every night, Monday to Thursday, 7 o'clock on a Friday, 6 o'clock on a Saturday, and 10 till 5 on a Sunday. We did that for 11 months without a day off. I wouldn't recommend it, but that's what you have to do to establish a business. Yeah. So, I didn't really see my two girls. I've got a girl of 29 and one of 26 now. When they were growing up, when they were young, my wife brought them up, single parented them indirectly, because I wouldn't get in till 9 o'clock at night. I mean, I used to finish work at 8 and go to the gym, do a 45-minute training session. Well, probably about 10 past 9 I'd get in, quickly something to eat, have a quick chat for 10 minutes, go to bed, asleep.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's that type of thing. It's tough if you want to do that, but you've got to be dedicated. It doesn't matter what you do. It's no different to Lewis Hamilton. I mean, if you read any autobiography, it's basically the same book, just a different setting and a different person.
Yes.
Everyone does the same. It's the same things. There's no shortcuts. Got to work hard. You need to be lucky, but you make your own luck. You need to be confident. You need to learn from your mistakes, and you need to have that strength of character and determination to see it through.
Well, you just mentioned it there, and not to get all negative, but would you be able to pigeonhole the biggest mistake you've made to date? What have you learned over the years that you feel actually you'd like to have changed different, or are you one of those people that just sees every one of those kind of as a learning curve?
Yeah, I don't really think I've made any. Obviously, I have made mistakes, but there's nothing that I'd really change. I mean, I wouldn't be where I am today if I'd done anything different. So you know, that creates problems and situations as you go along. But if everything was smooth, then life would be boring anyway.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you wouldn't learn because there's no challenges involved. So not really. I can't really think of anything. You know, the only tip I'd say to people out there is if you're opening estate agents' offices, the hardest office you ever open is your second office, because you end up splitting yourself, and that doesn't work. And we tried it. We opened it with a person who we thought was really good. He'd work with us. But once the BDI of Mordor was not on him 24 hours a day, he decided he wanted to spend more time on the sunbed and in the hairdressers getting his hair done than he did actually selling houses and getting properties on the market. Bless him. So that just didn't work out for us. So it meant I had to split myself between two offices, and that just didn't work. And then we then set a plan up and recruited the right kind of people for both offices and took a step back. So you know, that is really, really hard. I think I'd caution anybody, if you've got a successful estate agent's office, you might, depending on whether you want an empire, or when I say an empire, 5 or 6 offices, I'd caution whether you open a second one, because I don't really know anyone who's opened 2 or 3 and it's worked. They've either gone on to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or they've shut the 2 and gone back to 1.
That's really interesting. I talked to obviously quite a few agents, and actually when they're sat there talking about it, is you always want what the other persons want, don't you? There's somebody there and looks at the 20 office at network there, but speaking to the likes of Mark Manning at Manning Stainton, and you know, he'll talk about Gareth Ashington having the perfect business because he's got a single office that he can sit in, be on top of, and you can see him looking off wistfully into that, and you know, the ability to manage that. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. A lot of people get to that stage and say that spreading yourself too thinly is a real challenge, isn't it, as you grow the business? Yeah,
it's a challenge for you when you get older, you know, because obviously the business is like a magnet. It sucks you back in. It's like a black hole all the time. You can't get away from it. You can't ever leave it. The thing about sales is no matter how many good people you've got there, ultimately, you know, the bank overdraft, the bank debts, the loans, the bank themselves have got you and your bodily parts in a vice, you know, with a big cleaver hanging over the back of it. So I think people who are successful in sales, and certainly any businesses, are probably control freaks anyway. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've got brilliant people. Royden, who runs a state agency, Debbie Financial Services, Jade Lettings and everything. They're great people, but you just can't ever switch off. I mean, you know, I get figures in on a Tuesday, and because we have our weeks of Tuesday to Tuesday, and I will always ring the managers up and just go over the figures just to keep a grip of what's going on. And more importantly, is make sure that they've got a grip of what's going on. You know, figures, I do think that, and people who run businesses have got managers in it will know this. I think the people in the businesses that send figures think they're for us, and they're not. And they're not. They're for them to help manage their business.
It's about understanding where they're up to and what they need to do.
Correct. And I think a lot of people fill numbers in without understanding what those numbers mean.
Yes, that's a real, I mean, I'm coming at this from my own point of view here. So I do it, you know, whenever I've been at my weakness, it's filling in the form and not thinking about it, filling in the Excel spreadsheet. That's really interesting. So what makes a good manager to you then, Karl? What is, you know, obviously you've got quite a few of them at the moment in terms of is there a consistency that somebody has to have? I'm assuming they have to be organisationally quite strong, or what do you look for in core skills?
Well, ideally, what you want is the all-round manager whose organisation's fantastic. They're a control freak and they drive everything. But very rarely do you get that. What you tend to get is one or two of them if they're decent. So quite often we've got managers that are fantastically driven, amazingly creative, and travel uniformly as an individual. And what I mean by that is, doesn't matter who they are or what creed, religion, age, definition of person they see, male, female, whatever, that person buys into them.
Yeah.
So they travel across all communities. So those people are brilliant, but quite often they tend not to be the most organized person. So we try and put someone with them who's organized as like an assistant manager, backup, whatever. And then we've got other people that are amazingly organized, but maybe aren't quite, they haven't got that, as David Ginola would say, they don't have that je ne sais quoi quite. So we have to try and put someone with them as well. So it's building a team with them, but occasionally you'll get somebody who is anal, amazingly organized, controls everything, can hear every conversation in the office, and has that little bit of star quality that I always say, if you walk into a room and people in the room turn around without even knowing you've entered the room, it's just that feeling. And some people have got that, you know, and that's the thing. I mean, a lot of people say to me, oh, you know, can you teach this? You can't really teach the top level. You've either got it or you haven't. You know, what we're able to do, I mean, I say this about Kings is I say that if you come to Kings, knowledge I can teach you, but I ain't the Wizard of Oz. I can't give you a heart. You've got to have that heart.
And you mentioned Ginola there, and of course, all the best clubs are the ones that allow those very top players to perform at their absolute peak, isn't it? It's about freeing those ones up. So you mentioned culture earlier in terms of there. What would you define as the culture there at Kings?
Being the best that you can be. You know, I think we all measure ourselves against other people, but what I say to everybody is that, you know, my mum taught me this when I was a kid growing up, when I was playing football for the school and things like that. And, you know, I'd come home and I'd go, oh, I've not played very well today. I think someone's better than me and this, that, and the other. And what all kids do, whether it's netball, whether it's maths, exams, or it's this, that, and the other. You judge yourself against other people because there's nothing else to judge yourself against at that point. And one thing she said to me is, she said, at the end of the day, what's important is you do your best for you. And that is the best you can do. And if you do that, and you'd be surprised, most people don't do their best. They think they've done their best. But if they're actually honest and they looked in a mirror and said to that person staring back to them, I've done my best, that person staring back would say, are you sure?
Yeah. Do you think that's a dynamic that's even harder today? You know, I always forget which generation this is described as, but most people, you went back to that cynical kind of view there. They are very unforgiving of their ability to challenge themselves to be the best. Do you think that's true?
No, I think it's probably more highlighted through social media these days. I don't think it's any different. I think, you know, people are people. I think they're the same all the way through. I think there's more pressures on the youth of today, shall we say? I'm talking about anybody under 30 really there. I think there's more pressures on them. I think it's more difficult. I think they're pressured with visual viewings via social media and, you know, what's the right kind of thing to be, what's the right kind of thing to do. I think you've just got to get a focus and you've got to stick to that focus. Again, I said in my training yesterday, I said, I can't remember. I think it's Rocky Rocky 3, where he fights Mr. T, Clubber Lang, and they take him to this downtown part of I can't remember, one of the cities there, and he goes in this terrible room and he goes in his bathroom. I don't really know why, because he doesn't shave for the whole training session, but he pins on his bathroom mirror a picture of Mr. T. Yeah. And like, that's it. And so nothing distracts him from that because he's just focusing on that one thing. Yeah. I think that's the problem with social media. It's too many people questioning you indirectly. And you end up questioning yourself. You know, am I good enough? Can I do it? Am I this? Am I that? And I think that's one of the problems with social media, if you allow that to happen. And a lot of people, I mean, social media, if you take something like Twitter, I mean, it's an emotional vase of anger, frustration, and inadequacy that people explode outwards. So I would say don't use Twitter for sure, personally. I'll probably get sued by Twitter now for saying that, but I think that if you're going to do social media, there's more softer ones to deal with.
Yeah.
And if people are just being horrible or whatever, just block them, and don't listen to them. But again, throughout my whole life, I've had nothing but jealousy. People are always jealous. You know, you just got that. That's what people are like. And jealous people never do anything in life.
No.
Because they spend too much energy and too much time being jealous of other people. And me, I love seeing people do well. I think it's fantastic. Absolutely brilliant when people do well.
Well, that would be Rocky 2 is when a Clubber Lang beats him, and 3 is when he comes back and I think he beats him again, doesn't he?
No, 2 is when he fights Apollo Creed and beats him. First one is when he draws.
Oh no, it is. You're absolutely right.
Second, when he beats Creed in the final minute. Third is Clubber Lang. Fourth is Ivan Drago.
Ivan Drago, I must crush you. Yes, well, this is getting this is going in another direction there. So Karl, what type of boss are you? And more importantly, what sort of boss are you? Would you like to think of yourself, and would your team agree with you?
I don't know. That you'd have to ask my team, really, son. I mean, but basically, I think I'm hard and fair. I think.
Is that you're hard, but you're consistent, so they know? Because the only thing, there's nothing wrong per se with being hard, is there? But it's when people bounce from kind of pillar to post without a lack of consistency, you're able to always. They know exactly what you expect of them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you describe me as a person, I'm a peach, soft on the outside, hard on the inside. So that's how I'd say. Most people are eggs, hard on the outside, soft on the inside. Yeah. So. And to be successful, you've got to be a peach, in my opinion. Or you could be coffee and just mix with everybody.
Yeah, okay.
So, there is that scenario. But so I'd say that I'd like to think that people respect me, not necessarily like me.
Okay, yeah.
That's not for me. That's for them.
Yeah.
I don't care whether they like me or respect me or don't. But I think from their perspective, they'll learn more and do more if they respect me and listen to me. They just don't have to like me.
But it's going back to your football analogy as well. That really fits in, doesn't it? You know, famously, I mean, I'm a chippy Liverpool fan, but people like Rafa Benitez, very, perceived as being very cold. But you're not going to keep everybody happy in that team and squad by being the best friend. Especially when they've got to be moved on at the right time or dropped from the team, have they?
No, but I think managing is about, the problem is people talk about styles, and I don't think you can have a style. I think you have to adapt to what you've got. So it's a bit like football. I've always ran my son's. The one thing that I did was, because I didn't spend time with my girls, when my son was born, who's 19 now, and funny enough works for us and at the moment, so I'll top negotiate in the whole company, right? Nothing to do with me, just to do with working in with great company and great people. Right. But I managed his football team from the age of 7 upwards. And when we got to about 16, we started playing a year up. And I had a great set of players, but I had to change the system because the best player was a left-footed player, and he wasn't really a left back, and he wasn't really a winger. He was a wing back, but he destroyed teams. So we went 3 at the back, 4 through midfield, 1 in front, 2 up top. That system was played, not because I wanted to play that system. It's just that system suited the players we've got. Yeah. And I think that's the same with management style in anything, that some people have to be managed with more stick, less carrot. Other people need time spending with them. And occasionally you have to show your teeth to them. You have to be softer. So you need to be a chameleon and change your color and your spots to whoever you're with.
Horses for courses, essentially. What are you?
Yeah. And I think that, maybe the criticism of that is sometimes maybe you appear to the public to be, not the public, but en masse to be maybe a little bit, well, why is he soft with him and hard with me? But if anyone asks me, I'd always explain it, that I just think that that's your personality. If I'm wrong, then tell me and we'll talk about it. But I'll listen. As Brian Clough once said, what we'll do is you can always talk to me and tell me your viewpoint, and I'll tell you mine. And at the end of it, we'll agree that I'm right and you're wrong. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, I get that. So, talking about, you've got a strong training culture. I think everyone knows that. You talk about it, and you spoke about as well about mentoring in there. So, how do you see? How important do you see, and how does the training culture there work at Kings?
Most of your training is done on the job in terms of the actual way we operate, the ethos, and that's led by the managers. Our managers get quite a lot of freedom. I think they'll probably tell you not. They'll probably tell you it's like Stalag 45. But I don't think it is. I think that there's quite a lot of, we give them quite, particularly when the figures are there. You know, some of my managers I might speak to once a week, but that's it. I only having a quick chat with them. And Royden's the same. We let them. If you create, if you've got something of beauty, then why try and fiddle with it?
Yeah.
Leave it. It's like nature.
Yeah.
Why mess with nature if it's a creature of beauty and it doesn't need anything?
That is a dynamic of poor leadership where they just keep fiddling with stuff until it's broken.
Could be poor leadership, or it just could be that there's an insecurity of the individual who's leading in the first place, and he feels he has to have an input into it so he can tell himself that those results are down to him. You know, the best level of leadership I ever heard was Sir Clive Woodward was asked why Martin Johnson, the 2003 World Cup England rugby captain, was so fantastic as a leader, and he said, "Well, it's quite easy, really." He said, "When things are going bad." Martin will look in the mirror and he'll say, "You son, I've got to put it right." And he'll go out there and he'll lead and he'll do what it needs. And you see that in the World Cup where Martin Johnson, right before Johnny Wilkinson takes that drop goal, he carries the ball those extra 3 yards across the field. So he knows he can get that middle shot.
Yeah.
Okay. And then he says, and when things are going well, after the match, Martin gets interviewed, and they say, "What a fantastic leader of this team you are, Martin." He says, "Oh, it's easy. I got Jeremy Gusker, I got Johnny Wilkinson, I got Lawrence. There's nothing to lead. They're all leaders." And there it is in a nutshell. I think that's probably, if you asked me earlier why leadership would be, I think I'd probably say that's me. That's my philosophy. Things like that stick with me when I hear him, because I just know it's like a bolt or being hit with a hammer. It's so obvious that is true leadership.
Got you. And about the business itself, are you quite systemized as a business? Or you mentioned there that the branch managers, you let them have the control. How much do they have in their remit to run their own offices, and how much do they have to kind of adhere to the King's way of doing things?
Yeah, well, we've got basic systems, so that, you know, morning meeting, reporting systems, making sure that, you know, the CM system is filled out correctly. Way of doing valuations, what you take on a valuation, what you don't take, all those sort of things are there. But then we have got some managers who then want to add something else in it. So, you know, we've got some managers that want to use a slightly different little bit of software. You know, there's a lot of stuff out there, Sprift, Home Search, all these companies, as you well know.
Yeah. Some
people like green wine gums and some people like red wine gums. They're still wine gums. Yeah. So why make them eat black wine gums?
Yeah. And just on that basis there, I mean, which are the suppliers out there in the industry that you have time for? Which ones do you think are delivering? Because obviously, famously, there's a lot of prop tech out there that, you know, seems to solve no particular problem. What are the ones that you think actually are delivering for agents on the whole?
Well, I think there's two things about delivery. There's delivery and cost. Okay, we can all drive around in a Rolls Royce, but if it only does 4 miles to the gallon, it's probably not practical.
No,
it's bloody lovely, but it's probably not practical.
Is it a nice to have? Is it an essential? Yeah.
So there's quite a lot of software out there that's bloody lovely, but for me, it's not cost effective. Okay, so the stuff that we sort of use, we do quite a bit with Sprift. We like that fits into what we are, and I think also what you got to remember is, Si, when you're dealing with software, it depends what marketplace you're in. You know, if you're selling £3 million luxury homes in the countryside, that's completely different to what we sell.
Absolutely.
You know, we sell, you know, first, second, third properties in cities. So they tend to be flats, mid-terraced houses, semis, and some detached houses. Probably more detached houses now than we ever used to, because I think probably like anything, over a period of time, your clientele, you know, I sold to people that were 20 and now they're 50. So obviously the clientele is slightly different. So we sort of match that software to it. Software to me has to add real value. And it also has to be not taking out the human part of the job. As I said at the beginning, these people want to sell, these people want to buy. It's not rocket science. I'm not keen on although you have to have systems that match, But to me, that's the third thing you do. As an estate agent, you should know who's going to buy what property before you even take it on the market anyway.
Yeah.
If you don't know that, you're not an estate agent. You're a processor.
Yeah.
Go and get a job working behind the bank, putting figures in, or an accountant. You know, you need to know that. I would go around properties and I would say to the vendor, I know who's going to buy this. I've got 3 or 4 people, but I'm pretty sure that Mr. Patel's going to buy this. It's exactly what he's looking for, blah, blah, blah. And then Mr. Patel buys it, and the vendor's stunned and whatever. But that's what you should be doing. You should know that. It's no different to being, I suppose, in the fashion industry, where, you know, you walk in. I go in the shop sometimes, funny enough, where I got my jacket from today, and the guy goes, "Oh, Karl, I've got the perfect thing for you. I was thinking about you. It'll look fantastic on you. It wouldn't look so good on me, but it'll look fantastic on you." Obviously, he butters you up, says it to everybody, obviously. But then you put it on, and you know, you think, "Oh, that looks all right." Blah blah blah. And you do a sale, and you walk out, and as you walk out, he shakes your hand and says, "Well shot." And you go, "Yeah, I've done really well." Just
well shopped as a verb is absolutely fantastic.
I think. Yeah, 500 quid lighter. Yeah, well shopped. And then I'll get in my car, put it in the boot, and think, "What have I done?"
Yeah, I'm at a very different stage, Karl, where if it's, as long as it's extra large, I could fit in it. I'll just take it. So it's
you need 2 for 1, but not 2 separates put together. Yeah.
I'm going to be stealing well shopped though. That's coming back with me there. So that's great. And on the other side as well, there, Karl, who are the people? I mean, you mentioned, you know, the formative years, and you said he was still the best agent. Who over the years though have you thought, you know, it maybe not you've actually worked with, that you quite respect from within the industry, or indeed maybe even outside of it?
Yeah, there's to be honest, there's lots of people that are really good estate agents and things like that. So you know, you respect them and whatever. But most of the people that I've sort of respected are slightly outside the industry. So you know, I can probably count on one hand, to be honest, the people that I think are absolutely the bee's knees, because longevity is part of it. Yeah. Attitude, lots of the things that I've said, the way they treated people. At the moment, probably still out there is Steve Goodall, who heads up eServe. He's the managing director of eServe now. I've spent many years working with him at LGSS. He's thoughtful. Yeah. He is not aggressive in terms of fierce aggressive. He's aggressive. I'm afraid I've got to be aggressive, which I think is the right way about it. He's intelligent. He tries to find a way and solutions. And he is loyal in terms of he's honest. Yeah. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are in this industry.
Those are the traits that you really admire.
Yeah. You know, it's one thing. Look, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of bull to get things over the line. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you shake on something and you say you're going to do it, then, you know, you can't always do it. But if you don't do it, then you have to basically do a face-to-face with that individual and explain to them why. You know, you don't. It's like sacking people. You don't sack people by text and email. No, you go and see them. I mean, you know, anyone that we're going to sack. Sorry, it's not a very nice phrase, but you know, let go, whatever you want to say. You can coach it however you want, can't you? Yeah, I would always, me personally, I would always try and go and see them. Or I'd call them up and sit down and have a coffee with them and just sort of say, because when you let someone go, it's your failure just as much as theirs, because you employed them. Right. In fact, probably it hurts me more than it hurts them. I mean, that's half the problem. That's probably why I'm letting them go, because it hurts me more than it hurts them. Yeah. Okay. You know, it's not, they don't feel it enough. They don't want it enough. They won't go the extra mile. And there's what are you doing at that meeting then, Karl? Is it just to be fiercely honest about why they haven't made it? Is it to set them up for their next job, to you know, give them the enthusiasm to do it? What are you trying to impart there, apart from obviously it's not worked out? They plainly haven't got it at that point, or don't want to get it. So you've got nothing to lose, really. So I suppose it's the last go at trying to get through to them, that maybe the penny drops in that meeting. Very rarely, but sometimes the penny drop. Normally it's, oh, well, the reason I've not done it is because of him. Well, that tells me that they're not going to do it, because you never blame other people. You take the responsibility yourself. The minute you start blaming other people, it's pointless. Right. But every now and then some people do get it, and that's great. If they don't, I try and get them to go away and think about it and just really say, look, I know you're upset at the moment. I get that. I'm upset as well. It's not worked out. It doesn't suit me. And it never suits an employer to lose a member of staff, because you have to then reorganize your office. And when you're employing someone for an office, you're not just employing a bod, you're employing somebody who is, what should we say, he's got to fit into the team.
Yeah.
They've not just got to do the job, they've got to get on with the people they work with. There's got to be synergy there between them. If the synergy's not there, it's like a football team.
Yeah.
They've got, I know in the olden days, we used to go out and have a drink together and stuff like that, but there's got to be synergy there. And where you get these little, free in this corner, free in this corner, free in this corner, that is the beginning of a problem in that team.
Yeah. That's interesting.
That is not a winner's team.
I remember talking to Peter Rawlings on this, and he obviously had a bit of a reputation, Pistol Pete, for firing people. And I asked him that particular, when I was feeling particularly brave, which isn't normally myself. And he said, "Look, it's of course I'm looking after the business, and it's not about, and I've got to defend that first and foremost. But clearly, if it isn't working out, it's not working for them either. So the first thing we'll be talking to them and sort of just ensuring you've really got the passion for this, because if you have, you need to reapply yourself and get on, or find a different job that that's going to work for you, because there's no point coming to do a job that you're not doing well, is there, or enjoying."
No, but I think those conversations have been had already when you get to that stage of sitting down with them and saying this is not going to work type of thing. I think you've had those conversations, they've had those chances. I mean, there's only so many chances in a Monopoly set to go back to Monopoly. You can't keep giving them out, otherwise we're moving on to community chess. It just, I think probably we give people too many chances, to be honest, at Kings anyway. That's my personal opinion. Right. That said, we do give people second chances as well. So, but we have to be convinced, well, I don't know about convinced, we have to be half convinced that, they have learned and they have made amends. Leopards do change their spots, but not all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's absolutely true. And so Karl, I always like to finish these interviews on a negative after we've been going through. So what's the one surefire thing that would make you lose it?
I think it's just, I don't really understand that people who don't do their best. I don't get it. It just doesn't compute with me, because I know that you cannot, as an individual, be happy if you don't give your best at whatever you do. So whether you're making a cup of tea for somebody, whether you are trying to get them a property, try and work for them, look for them, you should always be thinking to do the best that you can, because at the end of the day, if you can come home at night and say, "Do you know what, I've done the best I can today," it doesn't matter what money you're earning, where you are in life. It's just a good feeling. It's doing something good for people. I suppose it's a bit like charity work, isn't it? If you walk past them, and I think people give people, I don't know, a coin who's sitting on the floor, homeless, supposedly homeless people, or whatever, because it makes them feel better. So that's part of it. I'm not a great believer of that type of thing. I'm a great believer of taking someone and buying them a sandwich. But the problem is that not all that money goes in coffee and sandwiches, as we all know. So there's another side to it. But don't get me wrong, we've got our own charity at Kings, so we've sponsored all sorts of things. We even bought a brand new minibus for a blind school over in East London a few years ago. So we've done lots and lots of things, and I think that's important, and that's something else that we put into Kings. It's been difficult the last 18 months getting everyone together, but when we have awards nights and events, we always have a charity theme to it as well, and we like to sort of do what we call Kings in the community. Put a little bit of something back into the community. So a young boy had his bike stolen, so we paid for a new one to be replaced. Little things like that. So those ethoses are there. But yeah, ultimately, I think, going back to your question, what really annoys me is a waste of talent. We're not, life ain't a rehearsal. It's a full concert.
Yeah. Get
out there and sing.
You got one go at it. Make the most out of it.
Big time.
Brilliant. Karl, thank you so much for taking the time to explain, the business yourself. Absolutely fascinating. Obviously, you've got a great business over there at Kings. It's lovely to be able to hear your thoughts on how it all works and hangs together. So I'm just going to thank you for today, and I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thanks for the opportunity, Simon. Keep up the good work.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care.